breathe. And it took me a while to breathe because, I mean, that's what being a fan is about. So let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. Man, did not want to make this video at all. It's just overall a really a heartbreaking loss for the team, and I am so intense about this team. So it's tough for me to go into this critically and not be looking at it from a biased angle and not try to shield my players from blame, shield my coaching from blame, because it's always easy to duck into that shell. But I want to look at it critically. What did the Miami Dolphins do wrong yesterday against Buffalo, and what does it show about the team as a whole? And in order to get the full grasp of this, you kind of have to look at, firstly, the coaching, secondly, the quarterback, and thirdly, how they have fallen in these situations before. But I want to keep my head up first off because the Miami Dolphins, they qualified for the playoffs, even though it's in Arrowhead, which is like a disaster class of a place to go play playoff football. The Chiefs are weak. I still think Miami goes in and wins there. It's not the end of the world. Honestly, I think the matchup against the Chiefs is the same as what it would have been against the Bills. It's just that we have to go away, which is definitely unfortunate. But why did the Bills go and have that streak and the Dolphins go out and lose the way they did at the end of the season? And it's pretty simple. Miami lost the game to Tennessee, where you had 2 minutes to win the game. You don't get your drive in. They score two quick touchdowns in succession, and then you don't get the game-winning drive. Tua had the opportunity to have a game-winning drive. He faltered. You get the Jets win, you get the Cowboys win, which should have been a huge step for Miami to win the division because you go there and you win a very important division game on Christmas, not division game, a very important game against a big team on Christmas Eve. It's the 2 seed in the NFC. And that's when people started to think, okay, this team's legit. Not to say that they're not, but then you go into Baltimore and you get absolutely railed. And then that leads you to this game. You have injuries, but every team has injuries. You have a 14-7 lead, and you let the punt return happen. You have injuries again, but I want to really focus on the second half of offense because the defense, they did their part. Sure, Josh Allen had a few good drives against them. Sure, the punt return happened, but the defense got the stop at the end. The defense forced a fumble. Christian Wilkins was the best player on the field on either side of the ball in that game. Mike McDaniel, as much as I love him, as much as I think he's one of the best coaches in the league, he's not the best coach in the league because he abandons the run when you're in the lead, and good defensive coordinators know it. Baltimore, Miami is in this game. They're down, what, 17-10 or whatever it was. They just stopped giving the ball to Achane. Stop giving the ball to Jeff Wilson. They put the game entirely in the motion passing offense, which I think the motion passing offense is, if not the best passing offense in the league, one of. But when you take away the option of the running game, it makes it significantly less scary. Tua's an elite quarterback. Tyreek Hill's the best wide receiver in football. But if you know what's going to happen, the defense can react to it. So that gives you these drives where it's a 3-and-out. Barrios stuffed at the sticks. Tyreek Hill gets the ball knocked out of his hands. Now the defense makes the stop going into the final drive. And the final drive there's multiple things that went wrong. The glaring mistake was Tua threw the ball into double coverage when he shouldn't have. I can back that and say, why is the first read a double covered Chase Claypool? Why is Chase Claypool on the field? But Tua has eyes. Tua's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league. He has to know not to throw that there. That's on him more so than it is on anyone else. That being said, why is Claypool on the field? Why is Claypool on the team? And then Tyreek Hill came off the field because he was banged up. Why are we not playing the middle of the field there? Why is the play call not an inside pass to Durham Smythe or a screen pass to Achane? Those work. It's just there's too many ego throws from Tua and there's too many ego plays by McDaniel. And I don't think that we've earned that sense in a sense yet. I think the problem with Miami is they're playing as if they're a team that's proven they're one of the best in the league, and they haven't done that yet. let's go into Kansas City and play as if we're the underdog, because I don't think Miami's done that ever in a game. Play as if they're the underdog. Maybe Philly, but even that game they fell. It's just really interesting to me that they just have there's ego throws, there's ego. It's just it's hard. I mean, the first fully healthy season of his career, Tua Tagovailoa led the Dolphins to a 11-6 season. The second straight playoff berth. He won the passing title and was the most accurate passer in the league through 18 weeks of football. No one's question, or people are questioning because people are stupid, but a reasonable person doesn't question whether or not this is a quarterback that can take you to the promised land. Because who is? If we're saying Tua can't, who is? Because Lamar Jackson's the best quarterback in the league. I'm ready to say that at this point. Patrick Mahomes has done it, but based on this season, I can't see him doing it. Burrow, when healthy, can he? Sure. Josh Allen, too erratic. I don't know that he can. I mean, he can because the league is weak, but if we're pinpointing Tua's faults, I don't think you could say Allen can make it. I don't think you could say Lawrence. We saw what happened yesterday. That was a complete collapse. And he doesn't have the stats to back him up. He doesn't have anywhere near the wins to back him up over the course of his career. But you would think the NFL media landscape, and I don't even want to go into this to be honest, but the media landscape, you would think, especially since the injuries Tua dealt with, which were truthfully terrifying, you would expect them to celebrate a great season from Tua, but you know them to not do that. You get calls for his head. And it's normalized to see a quarterback get criticized after disappointment, especially when they had a part to play in it, because I am nowhere near saying Tua had a good enough game. And Tua has had problems against big teams. Whether that's, the blame is all on him, but it's really the offense as a whole. McDaniel stops running the ball in close games. I think the disrespect shown to Tagovailoa is unearned and way over the top. First off, if you know me, you know that. Everyone from Twitter clickbait accounts to Stephen A. Smith is waiting for him to make a bad pass in his game. And it's kind of weird to me because his story is inspirational. He's considered to be very likable. And the criticism of his play is really flawed most of the time. It's usually hypotheticals. What if he was in this system? What if he was in this system? But that's a tangent of its own. And I don't even really need to go into that. I just think that Miami needs to take a look in the mirror and realize, listen, we might think to ourselves that we're this team, but you're not yet. Baltimore is the team. The Bills are the team over you right now. I think the Bills are frauds. I have said it through every podcast episode that we've gone through. I think the Bills are complete frauds. They won that game because of a bounced pass off Andrew Van Ginkel's helmet, a punt return touchdown, which all credit to Deontay Hardy, but we had two players get injured on that play. A bad last drive. The Bills did not play well yesterday. That team hasn't played well since the Cowboys game. They've won, 3 good games this entire season. It's the Cowboys game, the Commanders game, and the Raiders game, and the Dolphins game earlier in the season, so 4. But wins don't discriminate. And that's what I've said throughout the entire season with Miami. Wins don't discriminate. You have to beat the good teams and you have to beat the bad teams. But coming into the playoffs, the Bills will get a win against Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh are terrible. But they're not going to go any farther than that. They're losing to the Texans or the Browns, I think. And that's the same thing I feel about Miami. They could beat the Chiefs, but there's no way they beat the Ravens. Because frauds, they disguise. And I think Kansas City's fraudulent. I don't think they've disguised well, but I think they're fraudulent. I think even Cleveland with Flacco is fraudulent. I don't think CJ Stroud and the Texans are ready to compete. This is the AFC for the Ravens, and the only team that I thought would be able to stop them is Miami. But unless Tua goes out there in the 0-degree Arrowhead weather and plays his best possible game, I just don't see it. And blame to McDaniel, blame to the defense as well. I've given the defense a lot of credit in this video because they made the stops when it was important. But they didn't. They forced one punt all game. They had 2 interceptions, one of which was an arm punt, and they didn't force a punt. You can blame the injuries because the pressure was generated by safety blitzes and Melvin Ingram, but overall, defense had an okay night because of the stops they made, but they were dominated in time of possession. They couldn't get a stop. Josh Allen ran for a first down on 3rd and 13. Man, it's disappointing. I had such high hopes for this team, and it's so easy to bog down and say the season's over. We just lost the division. But would you rather play Buffalo, who are on a 5 game winning streak, even though I think they're frauds? Buffalo on a 5 game winning streak, or Kansas City, who are just not good? I've been calling both teams frauds for the past maybe 8 weeks. And unfortunately, my own team happens to be somewhat fraudulent themselves. So it didn't really matter. But keep our heads up. There's still a playoff game to be played. This is Tua's first playoff game. He took the team to the playoffs last year. He won 8 games when he was healthy. Team only won two, well, only won one when he wasn't. But man, I mean, it's just I should just stay off the internet sometimes because I see some of the negative people. It's like, well, we're never gonna win the Super Bowl with the team we have. Maybe we won't. Maybe we will. Well, what's the point of playing the games? I don't think that this game is completely telling of what's going to happen next week because we get Jalen Waddle back, Raheem Mostert back. Hopefully, Andrew Van Ginkel's healthy to play the whole game. If Andrew Van Ginkel's healthy to play the whole game, that does not happen on the punt return. That game doesn't end that way. Maybe they win, but I don't know how. Breathe. And it took me a while to breathe because I mean that's what being a fan is about. So appreciate y'all coming and watching me rant. I'm sure this is going to be cut up and clipped everywhere to TikTok to Instagram. You're going to just see these little one-liners of mine, but on to the next week. It's not that deep. Let's play football.